The amount of anxiety I see when people come in, I mean, it's like a race to the finish line of getting so much money in their portfolio in their minds. And, so they want to get as much as they can. And a lot of people are taking undue risk right now, which makes me really nervous.
And welcome into Protect and Grow Chicagoland Retirement with Chicagoland's certified financial planning professional. He is Tim Stearns, CFP. We turn to him for a common sense approach on what to do with our money, our investing, our finances for a more sound, secure, stable retirement. No easy task, but we will be talking about some of the things that maybe make that more difficult than it needs to be. Some self-inflicted pain potentially here on the program that can be remedied if we just address things in the right manner. We have the right way of thinking about how to prepare for retirement. But we always appreciate the time, Tim, and the guidance and the insight. How are you doing? Welcome back into Protect and Grow.
Thanks for having me, Peter. I'm doing well. We have a lot of people with the new, one beautiful bill and all that good stuff coming in to talk to us. But the common theme over and over the last couple of years has been, how do I get from my working years to my retirement years and not lose a step, right?
Sure.
So the thing we're doing with people is getting them through that, and then that's why one of the reasons I came up with, basically the difference here between your working years and your retirement years and kind of some what I call them as the five pillars of sound financial planning.
Tim,
Um,
is this been such a recurring and common theme because it is so difficult, or because of the number of people who are currently making that transition to retirement? Or maybe a little bit of both.
I would say a little bit of both. Every day baby boomers are coming in here talking to us about how to get through retirement, and we're helping them get through that. But the biggest concern is running out of money and having a plan and transitioning basically, because the last thing you want to do is get 10 years into your retirement and realizing that you don't have enough money, and how are you going to go back to work making the same type of dollars that you made when you were in your, heyday of your career.
Well, as we get into this, ladies and gentlemen, as we get into these pillars of sound planning and the difference in how you plan and prepare both before and after making that transition, the cause and effect and the impacts of the decisions that you have made and set yourself up with. Keep in mind that Tim Stearns CFP is a resource for us here on the program, but also for you. And so many proactive planners and savers throughout the Chicagoland area have turned to Tim Stearns CFP and TJ Stearns Inc. for that proactive guidance that we need, but so many more need to get a plan put together. We've got tools available to us, but not many of us have truly formulated the plan to bring those tools together and to really encapsulate the vision of what we hope to accomplish into and throughout retirement. A personalized plan with your goals in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Really just a phone call away here. Don't leave that unaddressed or think that you have it covered, but don't know with certainty. Tim Stearns, CFP, and the team from TJ Stearns Inc. make an offer on this program to put together your Protect and Grow written retirement blueprint. And if you would like to take advantage of that as a courtesy offer, no cost, a complimentary basis, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-640-2256. That is 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. And Tim, not only have you done this for countless clients across and throughout the Chicagoland area, and in fact, across multiple states, you offer services in locations outside of Illinois as well. But just a little personal insight into Tim Stearns. You are the youngest of your siblings. You've seen this not only with your parents helping them make transitions, but also with your older siblings.
Right. I'm the youngest of five, and all of my siblings are baby boomers. A couple of them are retired happily, and one is about to, and then the other one who's 65 is still working. But at at the end of the day, they want to know how to retire and retire, correctly. And the big thing is having a plan and knowing exactly how you're going to create and income and pay your bills.
Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, I think that some of the challenges that we face in retirement are from the fact that we only do this once or hope to only do it once.
Oh,
And it has to be done correctly in order to meet that goal. And there are things that we are just not taught or told, or maybe just don't realize about the other side of retirement, that once we work through them and formulate that plan, help us in our understanding, but also in arranging our affairs. So important here. And if you'd like to get that protect and grow plan put together with the perspective of somebody who's seen it time and time again, done it many times, and knows what works, and unfortunately, in some cases, what has not worked so well for others, but can help you identify those on either side, pick up the phone, give Tim Stearns, CFP, a call, 800 640 2256, 800 640 2256. So, Tim, you and I were talking before the program. Most of your clients during their working career have done a pretty good job in a couple of these areas. The five pillars: income, investing, taxes, healthcare, and legacy. And most people that you talk to have done a fantastic job in having a job, generating income, and saving and investing some of that along the way. So income and investments. But there comes a time when those things flip in retirement. And
right.
then for the other pillars, we've really been taught to arrange our affairs in such a way that kind of works against us in retirement. Can you talk to us about this?
Well, Peter, it's all about income and retirement. And the big thing, people come in here all the time and ask me, if I have this amount of money, is that enough for retirement? If I have this amount of money, is that enough for retirement? The end of the day, it's all about being able to actually pay your bills. So if I have, and we've talked about this, but if I have a $20 million, portfolio that doesn't throw off any income, versus a $500,000 portfolio that pays, a good $100,000 in income, I'd rather have that, because I want to be able to pay my bills. Legacy is nice to leave something to my heirs, my children. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm not a burden on them and I'm actually able to pay my bills. So back to this, we're going to go from having income, which is employment income. It provides a predictable cash flow, which is outstanding. But when you transition over, the difficulty there is that, are you creating steady income from your investments? And what we do is we'll break it down for people with our plans to figure out how we're going to generate income that they don't outlive.
Pretty relatively, I mean, comparatively easy at this stage in my life, Tim, right? My income plan
Sure.
is I set my alarm and I show up to work. And
Hmm.
not without its challenges. I'm not minimizing the fact that I like everyone else have to put in some work. It's sweat equity or skill or we've got to show up to generate that paycheck. But once we turn to retirement, it is a completely different challenge, a completely different scenario. We still have the need for the paycheck, but we're not showing up to work to generate it. Now our assets have to generate it for us. And I think that leads to a lot of apprehension and
Oh, yeah.
uncertainty and nervousness. Like, I've got this lump sum, but I don't know how long I need to make it last, and I don't know how to budget it accordingly, and then how to create the cash flow.
The amount of anxiety I see when people come in, I mean, it's like a race to the finish line of getting so much money in their portfolio in their minds. And, so they want to get as much as they can. And a lot of people are taking undue risk right now, which makes me really nervous. But you're focusing then, at your age, or even these people who are about to retire, they're focusing on growth-oriented investments. They're tax deferring most of their earnings because they're in 401ks. And then you flip over to being in retirement, and you have to have a balance there of growth and income. And the deferred taxes lead to higher taxes on withdrawals because it's coming as income, right? Versus capital gains. You have increased taxable income, which impacts your expenses and even your legacy. So it's a definite gear shift into a different arena that I don't think most people are used to. And, I always talk about this in my classes. My parents always talk to me about accumulation. And they would say, if I had a paper route, I mowed a lawn, whatever, I'd get to keep some of the money and then the rest of the money went in the bank. So that's accumulation. But my mom to this minute, and she's still alive, 95 and a half years old, she has never talked to me about decumulation, how I'm going to, correctly spend my money down so that I don't run out of money. And hopefully I could even leave something for her grandkids. We don't have those conversations. And I think most people, that's a really difficult area to go into.
It's like these two things are sort of yin and yang.
Mhm.
They are dependent, codependent on each other, and then at a certain point in time, retirement, they flip, right? Is like you wouldn't have your investment portfolio without first having the income during your working career. And then in retirement, vice versa, a 180, you would not be able to generate the income that we need without having built the investment portfolio. But there's completely different pressures on that investment portfolio when money is coming out versus when it's going in. Because if there's a market decline during my working careers, Tim, I've looked at that as an opportunity. I'm like, okay, I'm buying on
Yeah.
sale. I should invest more. During retirement, I feel like I would be a little bit more uptight during those periods. And I'm sure a lot of people out there have experienced that and are. They see those downturns as potentially eroding years off of their life savings and their the longevity of their income producing ability.
And that's true if you don't have a plan. If you don't have a plan to weather the storm like that, you're going to be locking in losses and thereby, reducing your portfolio. The other big thing that reduces a portfolio is not, basically uh, worrying about taxes. When we're working, it's, we want to maximize deductions and defer our income from the 401k. But now you segue into the fact that, you need to live off of that. One of the things that we are impressing upon our clients, if they have the wherewithal, they should be looking into doing, Roth conversions at these lower rates that we're having. It's a great opportunity, and we talk about how this now this these tax plans are permanent. Well, how permanent are they? Some of it gets fa you know fa faded out over the next couple of years. Not to mention that if a new regime comes in of different politicians, they might redo everything. So I know what taxes are today, and I'm going to take advantage of that for my clients who have the wherewithal.
When something is hard to change, they say it will take an act of Congress, right? But
Right.
this bill actually incentivizes Congress to act at some point down the
Right.
road because many of the provisions sunset at a certain point in time. So I think, there will be conversations. The tax rates and brackets certainly we will be revisited. We have new elections and new leadership in this country every 2 years. So over the course of a retirement, Tim, which is often 30 or more years these days, that's 15 different chances for changes in leadership and different perspective to come and revisit this conversation about our taxes. And again, the pillars of a sound plan that you have talked about: income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy. And we've already talked about the interdependency of income and investing and how that flip at retirement can already inherently be difficult. But most of your clients have done a good job with income and investing. But here, when we start to talk about taxes, like we are specifically being taught to save in a way, to defer in a way, to arrange our affairs in retirement, to work against us once we are retired. So, talk to us about this dynamic and why we may need to rethink kind of the status quo way of planning and saving and investing, or at least rethink where we are now moving forward when it comes to taxes, healthcare, and legacy.
Well, one thing in healthcare I will talk about is that, something that cropped up over 5 years ago is IRMA, and that has affected a lot of people. It's the surcharge that they put on top of uh, Medicare if you're making too much in retirement. So I am surprised. I just met with people the other day in my office, and they're particularly wealthy, and they had no idea about Irma, and they didn't know that that would fall on their shoulders, and they thought it was just for one of them once I explained it to them. So, I mean, that's one of the things. So that's another reason that I say that, maybe looking at Roth conversions, or if you are still working and heading off into retirement sooner than later, look at Roth opportunities within your 401ks. While you're still working, that is a great opportunity to really put some money away that's going to be tax-free for the rest of your life. The other thing that I see a lot of people are saying, oh, what about long-term care? They're coming to me, and one of the things I explained to them is that you have a 7 out of 10 chance you're going to need it, and 9 out of 10 of us in America haven't done anything about it. So the good news is we're talking to our clients about a hybrid life insurance policy that has, uh, gross cash tax deferred and tax free if we pull it out. It has long-term care benefits, and then ultimately it has a um, death benefit that it would be tax free to the heirs. So that's another way to do, legacy as well.
Tim, from what I understand, our country is running ongoing deficits almost every year, year to
Yeah,
year, and therefore we've built up a national debt that seems insurmountable, and that all of the trust funds that were supposed to support these systems that we depend on, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all seem to be running deficits and are underfunded as well, except that Congress has sort of figured out this IRMA surcharge outside the tax code, this additional fee that is income related. The Medicare Part B and Part D trust funds are performing substantially better than all of those others, largely due to the additional income they bring
yep,
in from that IRMA surcharge. For the income related, meaning you have income, they charge you more, basically,
right.
right? Do you think over the coming years, Congress will look at this and say, hey, it's working over there. Where else can we apply that concept?
Well, they're not very good at reinventing the wheel, so I say yes. We've talked about this in my retirement classes and my tax seminars that they might start to do means testing on Social Security. Saying, well, you make too much, so we're going to take a haircut from your money and give it to someone else, which is wrong, but that might be something they do because they've seen it work well for Medicare.
Now, here recently, Tim, with the one big beautiful bill, the headline was Social Security is tax free.
Right.
However, we've talked about in previous weeks on the program here, we reviewed that, and it's not really all it is made out to seem when you when you make the statement Social Security is going to be tax free, right?
Well, exactly. Not only that, but it phases itself out. And by what is it, 2030, I think the $6,000, I'll call it gift that they're doing to kind of make some more of Social Security not taxable will go away. So I'm not counting on something like that. What I would count on is the assets I have, position them correctly within Roths, and then make sure that they're also, positioned after that within my portfolio that I'm not subject to things like sequence of returns risk, which I speak a lot about in my book. The reason why I bring that up is because I can't get over the amount of people who come into my office and have no idea what sequence of returns risk is. And I'll say it again, it's basically if you retire into a soft bear market, it could really undo your retirement. And that calls to the point here that we need to have a protect and grow blueprint to really get through the years.
Well, again, if you would like that protect and grow blueprint, ladies and gentlemen, addressing all five of the critical pillars of a sound plan: income, investments, taxes, healthcare, legacy, giving you perspective for today, tomorrow, and for decades beyond, but also a plan that's going to keep up with changes in your life and the world around us and in the tax code, but a plan, not just a tool, but a true plan that addresses those things. That is what the Protect and Grow Written Retirement Blueprint is. And it is a no cost, no obligation, courtesy service there at TJ Stearns Inc. Tim Stearns, CFP, will sit down with you, personalize your vision, your goals with diversified strategies and a long term outlook and time horizon, design the plan for you. That Protect and Grow Written Retirement Blueprint. All you need to do is start the conversation by calling 800 640 2256. That is 800 640 2256. 800 640 2256. So, Tim, again, focusing on the taxes here, what worked in our favor during our working career specifically works against us in retirement, has a compounding ripple effect in several areas. Do you feel that it is time to rethink the way that we are thinking about taxes? Is the concept and strategy of Roth contributions and conversions, even though this bill has extended these low rates permanently, air quotes there for those listening on the radio, permanently, is the Roth still a worthwhile consideration?
Absolutely. I have two children that are, as my dad used to say, off the payroll, and they're working in the business world. And I told them right away that is the first thing they should do is sign up for the Roth 401k that their company had. So yes, even if you're 60 years old and you plan on working for one more year, I would tell you to pound money away into that Roth as much as you can. And there are companies that are allowing even the profit sharing to come in after tax like Roth. So those are things that I tell our clients to ask at work about. And when they can do that, do that. And the other thing is if you're over 59 and a half, most companies allow you to roll the money out. We could do a Roth conversion over here for you and get that taken care of so that the money is growing tax deferred and when you pull it out, it'll be tax free.
And again, these are strategies that need to be discussed. Tim, do you feel like enough people are hearing these kind of conversations? Or are we just looking at the benefit and the advantage of deferring taxes today and kind of short-sighted and not thinking about it and ignoring the potential repercussions that compound and multiply in retirement and with our healthcare and with creating that legacy ultimately?
What I see is most advisors are money managers and they don't advise clients about Roths and tax issues, or they won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Again, we have a CPA on staff, so I'm happy to do that. Plus, I'm a certified financial planner. So I think that makes us a 1-2 punch to get that figured out to see if it makes sense to do those things. But yes, I think it's totally a great opportunity, and I would do that. But I'm seeing most people come to us and they've got some mix of stocks and bonds and mutual funds, and they don't really know a point of where they're going to go with converting uh, 401ks and IRAs into something that's going to be manageable down the road. So they're not subject to the things like IRMA with Medicare and just trying to skirt that issue.
Again, talking with Tim Stern, CFP, it's a perspective, ladies and gentlemen. You need to be proactive, forward thinking. That's why it is called planning, not reacting. And I don't feel, Tim, that deferring and delaying taxes throughout the careers of most people retiring now has been a huge mistake or oversight. I'm sure a lot of them are looking back saying, hey, I wish I knew now or knew then what I know now. I wish I had
Yeah.
done more Roth, but it wasn't even available,
No.
right? For most of the career. It certainly was not popular or much talked about. And tax rates have come down over the
Yep.
last 30, 40 years. It's just now is the time to manage that tax liability and change our paradigm and way of thinking.
Right. And by doing so and addressing the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which again, most advisors I'm seeing are not doing that, it only helps the client to get through a 30-year retirement.
Taxes are pay me now or pay me later. We've always known and understood that arrangement. And I can even hear people out there right now shouting this, Tim, if I leave money behind, I'll just leave the tax bill behind with it. That'll be, my kids to deal with.
Yeah.
However, anybody who has worked hard to save and accumulate wealth and assets, Tim, I don't think that they want to potentially leave the IRS as the largest beneficiary recipient of the money that they've worked so hard for. Like even if the kids just split whatever's left over, we certainly don't want to leave the assets in such a way that the IRS gets the lion's share, which is actually how a lot of people are arranging their affairs again.
Well, you've talked about this. It's compulsory. You're going to pay it at some point. But I have yet to meet anybody who's come through our office doors in my 31 years who wants to pay more than their fair share of taxes, let alone leaving it to their family to pay more than their fair share. So I think that most people just have not been made aware of it as much as we try to pound into our clients' heads. And so that's something that needs to be worked on in society. And I don't know why people don't do that. So if you are interested in paying less than your fair share of taxes, I would give us a call.
Again, that number 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. And as more and more from the modern retirement school of thought, the baby boomer generation are retiring, we realize more and more that certain benefits we took advantage of during our working career actually can make retirement more difficult. And we need to recognize and identify that as soon as possible, Tim, to sort of reverse course or at least address those deficiencies, those hurdles that we've created for ourselves.
Right. And addressing that's half the battle. Once people, we show people our tax report, showing them if they do some of these conversions, what it will do to their tax bill, everyone's on board. It's that easy. And remember, we have a really easy website, mvpcfp.com, that they can actually look at what their tax bill will be if they do Roth conversions versus doing nothing.
That online retirement tax bill calculator, once again, is available. MVPCFP.com. MVP, like your most valuable professional, is your CFP. MVPCFP.com. The way that many that Tim Stearns has helped throughout the Chicagoland area have fared very well. Lucky, hardworking, blessed to earn a comfortable income during their working career, doing a diligent job in saving and building investments. However, ladies and gentlemen, we want to maintain that forward progress. We want to protect and grow. And that is what the Protect and Grow Written Retirement Blueprint is all about. How do you maintain that forward motion, momentum, and progress even after the paycheck earning years are behind you and into and throughout retirement? If you'd like to get your own Protect and Grow Written Retirement Blueprint, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-640-2256. That is 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. Or you can go online, tjstearns.com, tjstearns.com. Tim, we always appreciate the time. Thank you for being here and talking about these pillars, these important aspects that everyone should have a plan that addresses.
Thanks again for having me, Peter.
Tune into Chicagoland certified financial planner Tim Stearns' full radio program and visit tjstearns.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Chicagoland Retirement. Be sure to subscribe.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature, not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs.